Welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian with you guys. So some heavy news today, including another massacre, which we'll get to in a sec. And so they do their culture wars, the right wing does. But when they do, sometimes it's goofy, war on Christmas. Hey, Starbucks didn't, why weren't they Christians and wished me Merry Christmas on my coffee cup, whatever. Like stupid stuff from stupid people. But sometimes it's deadly serious. Like, no, guns everywhere, guns. And it gets us killed. And so a lot of people dead today in California because of them. And then, then you got the issue of abortion, where they want men to control women. They just do. It's a fact. And so we're gonna talk about that a little bit later in the program too. So, this happens all the time. Sometimes it's goofy stuff, and Donald Trump says idiotic things like water is wet from the standpoint of water, and it's hard not to laugh, right? But oftentimes it has deadly consequences, and today is one of those days. So, there's a lot of different stories we're gonna get to, including later in the program, in the second hour. Ojeda's not done yet, so one last time. And he's got a message for Donald Trump, and you're gonna love it, okay? So as usual, because the news is the news, we'll be going up and down today. It's a roller coaster ride. We start down, and buckle up, because it's hard not to get angry about these stories. All right, Anna.
The country is dealing with yet another massacre, another mass shooting, this time in Thousand Oaks, California. This is a suburb about 40 miles north of Los Angeles. And the mass shooter in this case took the lives of 11 people and then later his own. His name is Ian Long, and he is was a Marine veteran armed with a handgun. He opened fire during a college night at a Southern California bar on Wednesday. So this was on Wednesday night, killed 11 people, and then he turned the gun on himself. Now, he is, again, 28 years old. Ian Long allegedly shot his way into the Borderline Bar and Grill in Thousand Oaks, north of Los Angeles, firing on about 200 people who were enjoying a country music night with a .45 caliber handgun outfitted with an extended magazine. Since he was part of the Marine Corps, he was very experienced in not only shooting this weapon, but changing the magazine within 6 seconds, which was something that various victims had spoken to the press about. Long also served as a machine gunner in the US Marine Corps from 2008 to 2013 and completed a 7-month tour in Afghanistan. Now, earlier this year in April, authorities went to his house. Mental health professionals had evaluated him because there was some reason to believe that he was going through some sort of mental breakdown. They were saying that he was acting erratically and irrationally. However, the mental health professionals cleared him. And right now, we don't know whether or not he had any firearms at that time, whether there was any discussion about firearms being taken away from him. But there was some suspicion that he was suffering from PTSD, something that many veterans suffer from after being deployed countless times in these unnecessary wars. Now, to give you more details, he had purchased this gun, the one that he used in this attack, legally. Also, one of the individuals who lost his life, while everyone was running out of the club, he ran in. It was Sergeant Ron Heelis, who was very close to retiring. And through his attempts to save people, unfortunately, he was gunned down. He's from the Ventura County Sheriff's Office. He was on the phone with his wife, having one of several conversations he typically had with her during his shift. When he told her he had to respond to a call, he was shot during a gun battle with Long as he entered the building. Again, he was a veteran, 29-year veteran of the police force, and he planned to retire next year.
Okay, so as I was reading about that police officer, it was hard not to tear up because his wife had just spoken to him, and he's going to retire next year, and now he's dead. So the right wing, in their usual stereotyping, ignorance, etc., says, oh, the left wing doesn't care about cops. You crazy, man. I mean, look, there's a guy who risked his life and lost his life to try to save other human beings. We care deeply about him. We care deeply about all the people doing the right things. What we're trying to do is fix the country when there are things that go wrong. So it's not a blanket statement about anybody. And obviously, look at what this cop and so many others do in situations like this. And by the way, why do they shoot too often these days? Because they're of the belief, and they are taught, that anyone can have a gun. And that, unfortunately, is absolutely true. And we've talked about that on the show all the time. So I don't think they should shoot as quickly when people are unarmed. But unfortunately, a lot of times people are armed, and they rush into harm's way anyway, as this guy did, a wonderful human being trying to save other people's lives, right? And the reality is, everybody is armed. So if he had a gun back when they went to go do the mental health check on him, likely he did. We don't know, but I mean, he had the guns legally. The mental health check was just earlier this year, right? Would they have taken him away anyway? No. The NRA would have fought tooth and nail to make sure that he kept his weapons. And so they always talk about, like, oh, we got to do better mental health. The only reason they say that after the shootings is an excuse not to do gun control. Now, do they actually do anything about mental health? No. Donald Trump defunded mental health. So it's a lie, as usual. Lie. It's not provocation, it's not misleading, it's not miscommunication. After all these massacres, they come out and say, oh, we got to improve mental health care, and then they defund, they cut mental health care funding in their budget because they don't care. It's just a trick. Now, why do they do it? Because they're corrupt. Donald Trump is corrupt. All the people, every politician that takes funding from the NRA takes money from merchants of death. The NRA funded by gun manufacturers who profit from people's deaths, who profit from these massacres. And that blood money goes to the politicians, and the politicians make sure that we keep having these massacres. If you think that's too strong, you're wrong. It's a fact. So, and if you think it's not going to happen in your neighborhood, you're nuts. Of course it's going to happen in your neighborhood. It happens in every neighborhood. I've lost track of the massacres that have happened in Colorado over the last couple of years. Can you remember all the massacres in Colorado? I don't, honestly, like, newsworthy ones. Now, if there's a shooting of 4 people or more, that's a mass shooting. The other word for that is massacre. We don't keep track of those anymore. I mean, we keep track of them, but they're not in the news. That's one a day. Otherwise, we'd do a story every single day about a massacre that happens in America, because it happens. Okay, well, now it's been amped up. This is 12 people dead overall. So, hey, that's a massacre so large, it's newsworthy. Do you remember all the newsworthy massacres in Colorado over the last couple of years? I lost track. Right? And that's just one state. So in this case, there were people who said, oh my God, Thousand Oaks used to be, it was rated the safest neighborhood in America, or something along those lines. Who cares? There are no safe neighborhoods.
That's right.
Everybody's got guns. And so a certain percentage of people have mental health issues. That's actually a decent percentage. A smaller subset of that have mental health issues and are violent, are prone to violence. Now, even though that's a small subset, it's still a giant number in a country of 300 million people. So that means we've got probably hundreds of thousands of people in this country who are mentally ill, prone to violence, or just deranged from politics or their religion or one of their ideologies, and have incredibly easy access to guns. So legal or illegal, I mean, why would anybody bother getting an illegal gun? You just walk into a Walmart, walk out with one. I mean, so you can go anywhere to getting a gun in America is unbelievably easy. And so he probably got a gun the same way that everybody does. Just go walk in and grab one so that you can go murder people. So your town is not safe. And
no one's safe. No one's safe. And earlier this week, we were talking about how uneasy I felt going to a political event that did not have metal detectors as we were walking into the building. And that's the world that we live in. I was super nervous. I mean, I was thinking about how easy it would be for someone to open fire in that moment. And the reason why I think about that is because of how frequent these types of shootings are. And especially if you're at a political event in today's climate, you have to be extra cautious. We shouldn't be living in that type of country. This is supposed to be the United States of America. And oftentimes I feel like I'm living in this third world so-called democracy, when in reality, we have Americans who are fearful for their lives. We have domestic terrorism happening right now that our politicians refuse to do anything about. And one of the biggest stories today has to do with how 2 red states passed ballot initiatives severely restricting abortion, in fact, outright banning abortion, because the people of those states believe in protecting a zygote's life. But those are the very same people who will then turn around and say the first thing we need to do when these mass shootings happen is protect the Second Amendment, because guns are more important than human lives. So it shows you how insanely disingenuous they really are when it comes to the right to life. Because what about the right to our lives? Now, I've said on this show on numerous occasions, I'm not in favor of doing away with the Second Amendment or outright banning guns. But I do believe, and the vast majority of Americans believe, that we need common sense gun legislation, gun reform, but our politicians won't do it. And so, as I've said in previous occasions when similar stories have made headlines, we're gonna talk about this, we're gonna comment on it, but do I have any confidence that our politicians are gonna do the right thing and represent us in our best interest? No, I don't think they're gonna do anything at all.
So a guy who worked in law enforcement, retired, is in that area, and the reporters talked to him and he said, well, look, I'm not a gun nut, so I don't own one, even though I carried one for work. But now I'm gonna have to go buy one because nothing is safe and no one is safe. And the NRA looks at that and goes, mission accomplished. Massacres lead to more gun sales, not less gun sales. So they must be grinning ear to ear today at the weapons manufacturers that fund the NRA. So congratulations, guys. I thought that we were supposed to be afraid of a caravan that's hundreds of miles away with no one that's armed in it. You think that caravan has a higher likelihood of harming you or your family than the guy living next to you with a gun? You're crazy. You're wrong.
Yeah.
You're wrong. You are 1,000 times more likely to be killed by your next door neighbor or someone in the neighborhood who has a gun than you are, or someone in your house. Actually, you're 10,000 times more likely to be killed by someone in your house with a gun than by some guy in a caravan. I say that, I throw those numbers out there, but in reality, it's not hyperbole. It's actually less than a hyperbole. If you did the real numbers, the chance of you getting killed by someone in your house is almost infinitely higher than someone in a caravan coming from Honduras, or even any undocumented immigrant. You don't know the facts. You just don't know them. All you do is listen to Fox News and they say, oh yeah, guns are awesome. The massacres are fine. It's just coincidence. It's a coincidence that it happens every single day in America. Yeah, you think so? It doesn't happen in any other developed world that has strict gun control, but apparently that's also a coincidence. Well, you believe that stuff if you want to believe it, or you're not that smart. Okay, now to the Second Amendment. No, we're too soft with them, man. So it's not about repealing the Second Amendment. You don't have to repeal the Second Amendment. It's perfectly fine. Have you ever read it? Has anybody ever read it? It's a really simple one-sentence amendment. It says, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. You've probably heard the shall not be infringed part 1,000 times. Did you ever hear the first part of the sentence? Was Ian Long in a well-regulated militia? Was he necessary to the security of a free state? That's in the sentence. Plain reading of the amendment, plain reading of the Constitution. Conservatives are supposed to be in favor of that. They're not, they're liars. Because the Second Amendment clearly does not say that Ian Long and everyone else should have guns. It doesn't say that. It says a well-regulated militia. Was Ian Long in a well-regulated militia? No, he wasn't. Are you in a well-regulated militia? No, you're not. Okay, so that had a very, very, very clear meaning. And so anyone who says that you have an absolute right to free guns, because of the Second Amendment, they don't know anything. And they're either lying to you on purpose or completely ignorant. If you're not in a well-regulated militia, you do not have the right to keep and bear arms. You do not, okay? But the corrupt Supreme Court, picked by corrupt politicians who are all paid off by the NRA, interpreted it in a way that makes no sense at all. If they wanted to say that everyone has a right to bear arms, they would have written that. But they didn't write that sentence. They wrote this sentence. and the massacres continue unabated. It doesn't happen in any other country. To be fair, in second place for massacres is Somalia. They're a distant second to us, and guess why? They have the second most lax gun regulations in the world. Second most. They regulate guns more than America does. Okay, so congratulations, America. We finally found something we're number one in.
I want to go to some of the survivors, people who unfortunately were victimized by the shooter but managed to escape. Let's take a look at the first video.
We were looking at the dance floor and all the kids dancing, and all of a sudden we heard shots firing, and my son thought it was a joke. He didn't think it was real. I knew it was real, so I just pulled him down, and then he kept on moving to the right. He shot the front desk cashier, and then he went to the towards the office and started shooting there, and I saw the people trying to jam into the office and close the door. I don't know what happened. And then he started shooting at the dance floor, walking toward the DJ booth at the upper level, and there was a lower level that the dance floor is, and he was shooting down on the dance floor. So he's going to be traumatized for a little while, as I will, I think, because we made it out, and there's quite a few people that didn't, and they were all young.
He had 2 rounds that I know with him. He changed them within about 6 seconds, which was really fast. So he knew what he was doing. And he also had perfect form. When I look back, he was like spot on.
At the bar, you know, having fun, dancing, and then all of a sudden you hear like the bang bang of the gunshots, and it just started going crazy, and people were pushing. We thought it was a joke. We didn't take it seriously at first. It's kind of like you freeze because it sounded like firecrackers. So then our friends got the bar stools and they started slamming it against the window so we could get out.
So the authorities haven't identified all the victims yet, but what we do know is the majority of victims were extremely young college students, some of whom went to Pepperdine University between the ages of 18 and 20.
One of the guys who was in there named Tim said, maybe I shouldn't have left. I'm 56 years old. Maybe I should have stayed. And because those kids, they had a longer life to live than I do. So these are the choices we have to make as Americans now. Do you stay to get massacred, maybe save some people, or do you save your own life? And we won't ever, with these politicians and money in politics and the power of the NRA, our government is never going to do anything about it. You're just going to sit there and get massacred. And then you're going to have to wonder, should I have left or should I have gotten killed along with everyone else? So those are the choices we're going to make. We got someone who works here, and they know a person who died. It's Thousand Oaks is in the Los Angeles area, so that person is dead. And it's, if it hasn't happened in your area, it will soon. Everyone has guns. If we don't rein it in, don't ever act surprised. The enemy is here. It's us. We're terrorizing ourselves by allowing everyone to have a weapon, including politically unstable people, religiously unstable people, mentally unstable people. Who cares? The NRA says it doesn't even matter if you're on the terrorist watch list. And the government agrees. We're letting terrorists have guns. I mean, look, you could say, hey, one of the arguments they make is that the list is 3% wrong. Then fix the list. It's also 97% right. So let's give 97% of the terrorists guns because we want to protect the rights of the 3% that are wrong. I mean, then don't have a terrorist watch list. And that's a fine argument to make, okay? But if you have a terrorist watch list, how insane is it to allow them to have weapons? We don't limit the magazines. This guy had 30 bullets in a magazine.
And he had 2 magazines that we know of so far.
Right. We don't ban armor-piercing bullets, even though they are designed to kill cops, specifically designed to kill cops. This guy killed a cop, but we don't do anything about. We didn't do anything about it before. That's why that cop is dead. Okay, that's why all of them are dead, and we're not going to do anything afterward. When does the revolution begin? Look, I'm not an insane right-winger. They say, "Oh, grab your guns and murder people you don't like." I'm the exact opposite. I need a political revolution. If we don't do a political revolution, we don't get money out of politics, the corruption will continue unabated, and they make money off of our deaths. So they'll keep making money and you'll keep dying.
I want to take a break, but when we come back, there's the second portion of this story, which is the response from the right wing, including Marsha Blackburn. I want to say you won't believe what she had to say about this on Fox, but you probably will believe it. So stick around.
All right, apparently we're back. All right, let me read some comments for you guys. I think they're very pertinent to what we're discussing. Scott M123456 says in our members section, no place is safe. I used to think this won't happen here. Now I think, when will this happen here? Unfortunately, that is true. Stephen Mankey writes in, America seems so easy to...
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, you must unlearn what you have learned. And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
Scared when it comes to issues like terrorism and immigration, but they accept regular mass shootings. Makes zero sense. That's right. So if you're wondering why do we accept it, it's all two things, money in politics and propaganda. So they buy all our politicians, so it doesn't matter what we want. 93% of Americans want federal background checks on guns. We don't have it. What happened? I thought we lived in a democracy. I'm sorry, by the way, I keep quoting the old number. The new number is 97% want it, including gun owners, including the overwhelming majority of the NRA members. They want a federal background checks. Nope, NRA doesn't want it. The gun manufacturers don't want it. And they bribe all of our politicians, so you're not gonna get it. I mean, you wanna talk about makes zero sense, right? And it goes on. And then you get Fox News, oh, caravan. Oh, massacre, don't worry about it. Ignore the massacre, don't talk about it. Don't politicize it, don't talk about it, okay? And that's how you get to where we are. Their corruption leads to our deaths. Perry S. writes in, I had to take 2 tests, pay monthly insurance and yearly registration for my 50cc scooter so I could have a ride to get to work. I could walk into a Walmart and get a gun within 10 minutes and never have to report anything about it. This is America. Yeah, those scooters are awfully dangerous. You need more of a permit to go fishing in your local pond than you do to go buy an AR-15 and kill people. Now, this guy used a handgun. Rebel Dragons says, I live in Newbury Park, where basically the shooting happened. I have some right-wing neighbors discussing the horrible caravan the other day. Little did they know that their neighbor was the danger. Yep. They're so afraid of the others, they forgot to look internally. They didn't forget, they were misled. All right, and I'm gonna go to YouTube Super Chat for 2 more relevant ones because this is a good time to share, guys. And so I always tell you guys, you're the Young Turks, right? And so this is your experiences. Sage and Candle says, I live in a small town and have had 2 mass shootings within 15 miles in 2 years. Rock Falls and Dixon, Illinois. Of course, look, there was a shooting at UCLA, there's one in Thousand Oaks. They just keep piling up. When's your time? Caravan. People seeking asylum. Anyway, last one. Joseph Howard, also YouTube Super Chat. Next time you hear conservatives say blue lives matter, remind them that they've never actually done anything to keep blue lives safe in our society. Yeah, I am. Like, so we'll talk about it a little bit later, but conservatives love to say, oh yeah, Democrats don't know how to run any place. Look at Chicago and all the big cities where Democrats have mayors. Okay, well then look at Mississippi and Alabama. You guys have had Republican governors there forever, and they're miserable places, okay? Rank at the very bottom. Apparently, Republicans don't know how to do anything, right? And don't know how to run places. Okay, you want to talk about cops? All right, every time they mention cops, you just say you're in favor of armor-piercing bullets. You encourage people to murder cops. How dare you, right? Oh, well, oh no, but they'll get offended. I don't give a damn if they get offended. We got all these massacres in the country. We're worried about whether right-wingers will get offended. Are you insane? No. Look, I talked about an old school last night. Okay, so we got all these shows. I hope you're checking them all out. tyt.com/join to become a member. But look, the left is set to explode. I don't mean violently or physically. I just mean like they have megaphone after megaphone. They got Trump, they got Fox News, they got all the mainstream media that parrot their opinions nonstop, right? And create this giant echo chamber of fear and hate and loathing, et cetera, et cetera. The left has nothing. They have us, and then the rest of the media basically has a blockade on us and will not repeat anything we say, right? So there's no echo chamber.
Right.
So at some point, somebody's gonna rise up from the left, and everybody's gonna go, goddamn time, right? Enough. Thank God. And we're gonna come roaring out.
And if you guys have any interest in helping us spread the word about what's really going on in the country, please share the stream. Do what you can to get the word out, because if it weren't for you guys, you're right, there is a media blockade on the left, on progressivism, on solutions that would actually work. And if it weren't for you supporting the show and spreading the word, we would have absolutely no influence. We would have no voice. So
yeah, I mean, look, whenever you're watching any of our videos live, just share and like, super easy. If you can join, great, become a member. If you're already a member, you want to upgrade, tyt.com/upgrade. You want to do a gift so someone else actually hears these things. They don't hear it. I'm going to say it again later. The Bible is pro-abortion. No one on television in the history of America has ever said that, even though it is true. So there's a 99% chance that unless someone you know watches the Young Turks, they have never heard that fact. So give them a gift, tyt.com/gift, and they'll have membership. Let them listen. If they hate us, fine, they hate us, okay? But they might actually get educated. Anyway, let's keep going.
All right. Following the mass shooting that claimed the lives of 11 innocent people and also the shooter who turned the gun on himself, Fox News ran a segment where they had an interview with Marsha Blackburn. Now, Marsha Blackburn has fashioned herself after Donald Trump. She's a huge supporter of Trump and his policies. So I'm curious what she has to say about the fact that 11 people were gunned down in Thousand Oaks, California. Take a listen.
As a senator-elect now, I mean, what can we do? This was the deadliest shooting that we've seen in this country since Parkland. I mean, what do we do?
Yeah. What we do is say, how do we make certain that we protect the Second Amendment and protect our citizens? We've always done that in this country.
So the first thing she says, and the first thing she says that we need to focus on is protecting the Second Amendment, because the guns are way more important than the actual people who just lost their lives and the countless others who will lose their lives in the future in these mass shootings that continuously happen in the country. That's the most important thing to her. Look, we need to think about how we're gonna protect the Second Amendment.
Let me decipher that for you. She's saying the most important thing is my campaign contributions. NRA gives me money, I don't protect you. 12 of you got murdered, including a cop, don't care. My first priority is my check. Did the NRA give me the check? Great, protect the Second Amendment. She's talking about basically protecting the rights of the shooter.
That's right.
The rights of the shooter. She's concerned about the shooter and not the 12 people who are dead, mostly college students. I said, we told you earlier in the show, a 56-year-old got out, said maybe I should have stayed and taken a bullet for one of the kids. And she doesn't think that. There's quiet heroes all across the country. She thinks, ooh, where's my check? Where's my check? This is corruption defined. She's a terrible human being. These are the kind of scumbags that become politicians in this country. The ones that go, okay, I don't care about the citizens at all. Who's paying me? Oh, pharmaceutical companies are paying me? Let's set up a pill mill. I'll look the other way. You just poison the local communities. Tennessee, opioid epidemic is devastating Tennessee. Who cares? Did Marshall Blackburn's check clear or did it not clear? Oh, there's massacres all over the country, including in Tennessee. Yeah, I know, but she got paid. She's thinking, I got paid. So why does she come on TV at all? Because she's got to do damage control for the NRA. That's why they paid her. So she didn't say that by accident. She went on TV to say that. To go on there and say, now remember everybody, make sure that everybody's allowed to have a gun, even if they're mentally ill, even if they're terrorists, even if they want to kill cops, they want to buy armor-piercing bullets. She's in favor of it. She's in favor of all those provisions because she's a monster. And then she tells you, oh, the problem is the caravan. Caravan? Where's the caravan? No, but meanwhile, you're getting massacred and Marshall Blackburn's getting paid. That's what corruption looks like. She takes legalized bribes day in, day out, and is perfectly happy to cover for her benefactors. This system is gross. Marshall Blackburn is gross.
And not only does Marsha Blackburn not care about Americans losing their lives in these mass shootings, she also doesn't care about cops. Because a 29-year police veteran who was set to retire next year was also gunned down. He lost his life. And so to say that the most important thing and the first thing we need to do is protect the Second Amendment is so incredibly insulting in a moment like this. But she doesn't care. She doesn't care.
They all have blood on their hands. You encouraged everybody to get those. You wouldn't ban high-capacity magazines. He had a magazine that could hold 30 bullets. You wouldn't ban armor-piercing bullets. Cops have armor. No one else does. That's specifically designed to kill cops. It's on your hands. It's on your hands. So we have to do something political about it because we're not monsters like them. Now, unfortunately, Tennessee, you just had a chance, but oops, you just made her senator. Just 2 days ago. Now you're stuck with her for 6 years as she gets paid. I wonder if they write her a check after every massacre. I genuinely don't know, and it's a good question reporters should ask her. Do you get paid before the massacre or after the massacre? And by the way, Second Amendment. Apparently she's never read it. Apparently no one's ever read it. I'm gonna read it to you one more time. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. You've heard the shall not be infringed part. If they didn't want the first part of the sentence in, it's not like they couldn't speak English. The founding fathers were pretty good at English. They knew how to write. They wrote the greatest document known to man, okay? They said for a well-regulated militia. Ian Long was not in a well-regulated militia. The Second Amendment should have never, ever applied to him. But Marsha Blackburn gets paid to misinterpret the Second Amendment.
Now, the propaganda on Fox News continues. So Fox had a segment where they featured a former NYPD lieutenant by the name of Darren Porcher. And I think it's important to highlight this conversation because now a lot of the onus in keeping safe is on us as Americans, right? What do we need to do? What other security measures do we need to go through in order to keep ourselves safe? And what I'm hearing from this, former police lieutenant is more of the same. Again, you need to be responsible for keeping yourself safe. Take a look.
If I was a patron, or anyone that was a patron in one of these types of establishments for that matter, there's two focuses. There's one that I've heard, run, hide, and dial 911. That's one aspect. And there's another aspect, whereas you confront the shooter directly. And we've seen a lot of success with confronting the shooter directly. And we look at what happened with the 9/11 hijackers in Pennsylvania, for example. There's so many people at that location. If they converge on the shooter, it'll stop it. Granted, someone may get shot, but the truth of the matter is this will decrease the carnage far greater than if you look to run, hide, and dial 911.
These morons. Okay, yeah, untrained people should run in. Anyway, I just want to say one thing about the 9/11 example. They didn't have guns. The terrorists didn't have guns, and the passengers didn't have guns. So that argument makes absolutely no sense at all. But it doesn't have to make sense, it's Fox News. So they had box cutters, and the passengers just rushed them. If they had guns, they would have just shot the passengers. And the passengers, by definition, on a plane could not have had guns. But who cares? I mean,
But
logic
it
is
doesn't
not
matter.
necessary at Fox News.
The onus is on us. We need to rush the person who is armed and is opening fire and murdering people around us. That's what we need to do. That's the solution to all of this. Well, why don't we hear from one of the victims, a woman by the name of Taylor Whitler, student. She comes from a military family, and she tells the press what she has been taught to do in cases like this. Because unfortunately, like many children throughout the country, they have to have these incredibly uncomfortable conversations about violence and what to do during a mass shooting. And she had to have that conversation too. Here's the advice that she got from her own family members.
You know, Taylor, I watched you this morning and I saw your dad walk up behind you and talk with you about this. And you guys have gone over stuff like this before. And you seem to, in your mind, have a pattern on what to do. Can you tell our viewers about that?
So growing up, it was always a scenario that we went over because of how times can be nowadays and how crazy people can be. And he always taught me, drop everything. It doesn't matter what you're holding. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You drop anything and you take cover. You take cover, you get out. You get safe.
Yeah, you do.
So that was the first thing on my mind, was to get safe.
No, but former police lieutenant Darren Porcher believes that you should go after the shooter as he's shooting. It's on you, you know? Sure, you might get shot. You might lose your life, you know, but it might help to stop the carnage. I mean, this is so pathetic. These conversations are so pathetic. To ask, can he look her in the eye and make that point?
He probably could, because he's on Fox News. So, first of all, it's victim blaming. Oh, you got massacred? Well, if you had a gun and you went in and you happened to shoot a Marine, by the way, who apparently was an excellent shot, if you shot him before he shot you, then you would have been okay, and it's your fault that you didn't. But by the way, a cop, there was security all over that place. Normally they love to say that, but he shot a security guard and he went inside and shot a couple more security guards inside, and then a cop showed up with a gun and he shot the cop and killed the cop. What happened? I thought the gun was supposed to save him. Was she supposed to be better shooter than the cop who came in and got murdered? By the way, are you on Fox News blaming the cop who got killed? Because it sounds like you're saying that, hey, well, you should have rushed in with a gun. Well, he did rush in with a gun. That's what we pay him for. He did a wonderful job. He tried to save people, and he got killed. Well, you're saying, oh, well, he should have done better? But they don't care, man. They don't care about the people who died. All they care about is, where's my check, man? Where's my check? Did the NRA pay me yet? Fox News pays me to do propaganda, so you just sit there and get killed. Look, I remember, I had heard about it. I'm not even that old. That in this country, they used to do all these drills, of course, back in the Cold War, where you'd hide under your desk in case we were nuked. That was always ridiculous, because if we got nuked, you were going to die anyway, right? But it made people feel slightly safer to go through the ritual, right? Now we go through rituals about barricading doors inside the schools. This is all across the country. It's real. And if your kids haven't been taught this, they will be soon. We don't get the guns out. Instead, what we do is we train our kids on how to die. And maybe if you're lucky, you'll avoid getting shot while your classmates are murdered. That's what we teach our kids today. And yet we're not going to change any of the laws on the guns. Because of Fox News, because of the NRA, because of Donald Trump, and yes, because of the Republican Party. So are they responsible? Absolutely. If a Democrat takes money from the NRA and also blocks gun regulation, are they responsible? Absolutely.
I mean, I think all politicians, regardless of political identity, are at fault. And the reason why I say that is because while Democrats aren't as, gun happy as the Republican Party is, they don't fight. They don't fight hard enough.
Are there Democratic politicians on TV right now going, well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state? Well-regulated militia, no, the Second Amendment people get really mad. And then I might lose a vote or two. You get killed, I don't care. I might lose a vote or two. Oh my God, I can't do that. I mean, this is what I'm talking about, man. How long can the left take this, man? With our politicians being so impotent, such losers, such cowards. How long can we stand for this? We need real leadership where people are going to breathe fire politically and fight back so that we could actually save lives in this country. On health care, This drives me crazy. It's a New York legislator came on the show on Rebel headquarters and made this point, which I've never seen on television. 28 million people in this country don't have health insurance. If their kids get cancer, it can't just go to an emergency room. That's a death sentence.
Yeah.
It's a death sentence. In America, we let those kids die. With these nonstop mass shootings, we let those kids die. We just let them die because the Republican politicians are corrupt, half the Democratic politicians at least are corrupt, and the other half are cowards who can't fight back.
Right.
That's the state of the country.
But the Republicans will make sure that we give fetuses personhood rights, which is something we'll talk about later in the show today. All right, we got to take a break though. When we come back, we will switch gears. Trump has proposed new immigration restrictions. We'll give you the details on that and more.
We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. All right, back on the Young Turks. We're going to go to the member section first. Tennessee writes in, if I was running a political campaign as a Democrat, maybe I should buy a bunch of guns and then give them away during a campaign event.
At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your activity more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today.
Let's see how the Republicans would react. Now, look, when people on their side have guns, they love it. Give guns to Democrats, liberals, black people, Latinos. My guess is they're not going to like it quite as much.
I mean, Brian Kemp in Georgia, the one who's in this gubernatorial race against Stacey Abrams, we're going to talk about them later in the show today. I mean, in order to fearmonger about the type of people who support Stacey Abrams, he shared some fake photo of so-called Black Panther people holding guns. Like, why is that so scary, Brian Kemp? I thought guns were great. I thought Americans had Second Amendment rights. I thought the most important thing we need to do is protect those Second Amendment rights.
So when Ian Long has a gun, he didn't mind. 12 people got killed. Black Panthers have guns and don't use them. He minds. Interesting. Jay Bone in the member section said, imagine a world in which Democrats defended the Voting Rights Act, the Fourth Amendment, and Roe versus Wade as fervently as Republicans defend the Second Amendment. Exactly. Look, speaking of members, we brought TYT Classics back. This is where we bring back old videos and rewatch them, and they're amazing. Amazing for how we've changed, how we haven't changed, what we used to say on the show. And this week, we've got me, Dave Kohler, and Jesus playing Dave Kohler's America, okay? Mm-hmm. And so that's a classic. You guys are gonna love it. If you're a member, check that out. I think you'll really, really enjoy it. If you're not, obviously, tyt.com/join to become a member and get all of our shows. Just $4.99 a month. If you want $5, basically, activist level is $10. Okay, last two comments here. TNF channel on Twitter says, by all means, shooters have rights, but never women. Right? Yeah, shooters should have more rights than women. That's literally what the Republican Party believes. Marcus Patterson on YouTube Super Chat says, on the 4th of July this year, we had a mass shooting scare at my job, theme park at Broadway and Beach. I've been shaken up about it since because I know all too well that it could happen anywhere. That's right. And of course, there was the shooting at the YouTube headquarters, and on and on and on it goes. All right, Anna, what's next?
All right. The Trump administration is still fear-mongering about immigration, and so Trump has decided to tighten immigration asylum rules today and has announced them today. So according to the Washington Post, the administration announced new measures that would deny asylum to migrants who enter the country illegally. So anyone who enters through anything other than a port of entry would be entering illegally, and those people were still considered possible candidates for asylum in the past. But under what Trump wants to do, that would not be the case. Now, what he's doing is citing national security concerns in order to get this through any possible court challenges. The restrictions rely on authorities invoked by the president to implement his travel ban in early 2017. So he's using the same reasoning in order to get to sell this. Now, immigration advocacy groups insist US laws clearly extend asylum protections to anyone who reaches the United States, no matter how they enter the country. Now, here's the issue. Well, there are a number of issues. First off, this assumption that migrants seeking asylum know exactly where they need to go, how they need to go through this process. We're talking about people who are desperate, who are fleeing their home countries because of fears for their own lives. And so are they like sitting on a computer doing extensive research on the right way to enter the country as they're fleeing for their own safety? Probably not. And the second issue is that the Trump administration and his border control cronies have been known to make it nearly impossible for people to enter through the port of entry. Now, this was one of the issues that arose during the zero tolerance policy, where the Trump administration was taking children away from their parents as they reached the border. The argument was, well, they're entering the country illegally, but there were individuals working at the border who were essentially blocking them from going through the port of entry. And that seems to be happening here as well. Now, privately, Homeland Security officials acknowledge the new restrictions are unlikely to achieve the kind of immediate deterrent effect the White House desires. Yeah, there's no surprise there. And also, US Customs officers have been limiting the number of people allowed to approach the pedestrian entry lanes, a tactic known as metering that has triggered challenges in federal court. And that's what I was referring to earlier.
So that's cute, right? They're like, if you don't go through a port of entry, we'll immediately deny your asylum claim. If you do go through a port of entry, we'll block you. Oh, okay, well, we appreciate that. Now, think about this. Now, it's easy to demagogue against immigrants coming in from Latin America to white evangelical voters in specific. They're the ones who vote for Trump and Republicans in the greatest margins. Because they play white identity politics. They go, scary brown people, look at them coming in. So let me use a different example and see if you still think that this is a good idea. So imagine that there was a Christian who was being persecuted by a fundamentalist Muslim government, and he was going to be killed. So he ran away to avoid beheading and got to our country, but didn't know how to enter. He got somehow got past the border, okay? But thank God he made it. Would we send him back to get beheaded?
Absolutely. Under the Trump administration, 100% we would send him back.
But my guess is that the right wing would have a totally different perspective on that than they do about Latinos that are coming into the country. So they would say, oh my God, a Christian from the scary, evil Muslims? Oh, we have to protect him. This is the most important thing in the world. He's seeking asylum. What difference does it make to how he got here? He's running from the scary Muslims. Of course, right? But when it's people running away from violence in Honduras, yes, no brown people.
I think you're giving them too much credit. I don't think they care at all whether it's refugees seeking asylum from Latin American countries or someone coming from a Muslim majority country. They want them out. They're the others. They're the brown people. They're the scary foreigners. Meanwhile, we do nothing about the American terrorists that rain terror here in the United States on a regular basis. We do nothing about these mass shooters. We do nothing about people who carry out acts of political violence here. And I'm not talking about protesters, the same people that Republicans cry and whine about, people who have not carried out acts of violence. I'm talking about right-wing terrorists in the country who have carried out acts of violence. We do nothing about them. Those are the real threats, but we do nothing about them.
So just understand this law. It's not a law, of course. You actually if he wants this law changed, he should actually ask Congress to change it. But this rule that Trump is considering would mean that if somebody's running away, a Christian suffering persecution under any government, who would be killed because of his religion, they would be sent back. That's the rule. That's the rule. We don't care. You came in illegally. That's it. By the way, the Jews that came during the Holocaust, we did send them back. And under this rule, we would send them back again. Well, sorry, you came in illegally. The Nazi government did not give you papers. You didn't have proper documentation. You didn't go to the right place. Send them back. And so just know what you're signing up for. If you're comfortable with it, okay, fine. You're comfortable with it. I'm not comfortable with it. There's a reason why we have asylum laws, so that we don't send people back to monsters, okay? And we protect them, because we're supposed to be the shining city on a hill. But they don't believe that. They don't believe anything that America stands for. What's on the Statue of Liberty? Let me read it to you. It says, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door." That's what this country is supposed to stand for. And now we look at them and we go, but they're homeless. They're wretched refuse, right? They're to be thrown away. They're poor. You know what, Donald Trump and his cronies, they want to eliminate asylum. They want to eliminate family-based migration. They want to eliminate lotteries. They want to eliminate a lot of the visas to come in the country. You know what's left? The only way you can come in is if you get a visa, not the only way, but one of the very, very few ways left. If you get a visa because you have $500,000 or more.
Yep.
So it's the exact opposite of what's in the Statue of Liberty. Give me your wealthy and you're corrupt. That's the only people that Donald Trump wants in this country.
And the visa that you just referred to, which is sometimes referred to as the golden visa because of how expensive it is. Again, $500,000 to get that visa. Remember, early on in Trump's presidency, the Kushner family got in trouble because they went to China and started offering those golden visas in return for $500,000 in investments in their properties here in the United States. That's what they're all about. That's why they're not targeting those visas, because they use those visas to enrich themselves. This is why Trump's conflicts of interest happen to be a huge problem, but no one cares.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned the corrupt. Okay, they use it for corruption, the Trump family does. So we used to have a golden door. That's what the Statue of Liberty refers to. And it was for your tired, your poor, and your huddled masses. Now we have golden visas for people who have $500,000 they can give to the Trump family. It's the most un-American thing I've ever heard of.
All right, let's continue on with all the great news today. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has been hospitalized following a fall that led to 3 of her ribs getting broken. Now, she has suffered some serious injuries and health concerns in the past, and she has somehow managed to make her way back to work in a speedy way. Now, she broke these 2 ribs. Let's go to the first graphic, 34. So she was hospitalized with 3 broken ribs after falling in her office. At first, she didn't go to the hospital. She was like, oh, I fell, not a big deal. And then she realized she was uncomfortable, and so she went to the hospital, and then they realized that she had broken her ribs. This was the second time that she had broken some ribs. She broke 2 ribs in 2012 without missing work, which is insane. And she returned to work quickly after undergoing a heart procedure in 2012. She's also a cancer survivor and returned to work less than 3 weeks after having surgery.
Now you wonder why she's got the nickname Notorious RBG.
She's amazing.
Now you know. If you didn't know, now you know. Okay.
But I'm terrified. I'm terrified because as we know, Republicans have the majority in the Senate. Trump is very easily confirming federal judges, appellate judges, circuit court judges throughout the country. And he has confirmed 2 Supreme Court justices. I am worried about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I will donate my blood to her. Like, I will trade blood with her. Like, I don't know, human growth hormone, whatever there is out there, we need to do it. We need to keep her alive.
Yeah. So look, man, when I read the story, I thought, I wish she worked here. So nothing's gonna knock her out. You know, things can knock her down, but you can't knock her out. She, by the way, made her career fighting for women's rights. She's a fighter.
She is a fighter.
Man, she's 85. She broke those ribs and did not initially go to the hospital. Like, man, you think you're gonna knock her out? So bless her heart. And now, what did Donald Trump say about her back in 2016?
This is one of my favorite Trump quotes because of the irony. Go ahead. Do you want me to read it?
No, it's okay.
Go ahead.
I got it. He said, her mind is shot. Her mind is shot. Look at your mind, you moron. You simpleton. You're talking about Ruth Bader Ginsburg's mind? Are you insane? She's only about 1,000 times smarter than you. Her mind, like, he has no respect for anyone,
She's a cancer survivor and was back at work within 3 weeks of having surgery. What happened to your bone spurs, Trump?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Commander Bone Spurs reporting for duty. What happened? You ran for Vietnam, you coward. It's okay to say, hey, you didn't want that war, but he did want the war. He's one of those chicken hawks. Yeah, send other kids to die. Not, hey, my daddy's a millionaire. I shouldn't have to go to war. He said that he got a strong letter from a doctor. What's a strong letter from a doctor? You know what that means? My daddy paid off a doctor to pretend I had bone spurs. When they asked him, which foot was it in? He said, can't remember, maybe both. Okay, that's who Commander Bone Spurs is. And he has the temerity to talk about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, let alone her mind and her intelligence. I mean, that is the richest irony I can imagine. Finally, I'm with you, Anna. Stay strong, sister.
Yeah, tell us if we can do anything. I'll do anything.
I know. And a lot of us are in the same boat. But look, life is life, man. She could be the strongest fighter in the world, but she's 85. And things happen. So next time you're voting for a president, keep it in mind. It isn't just propaganda. It isn't a trick. It's real, okay? So God help us all if something happens to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Then he'd get 3 justices on the Supreme Court. And he's appointing people so young, they could be on the court for 40 years.
Yep.
So
making decisions about our lives for the rest of our lives.
And she was one of the best fighters for women's rights, okay? Imagine who they would replace her with.
I think we have an idea. I mean, anyway, okay, we got to take a break. When we come back, what the Trump administration will be doing in terms of birth control, what the future holds for reproductive rights in the country.
Yeah, sorry, it's been a heavy show because normally we go up and down. We haven't gone up at all yet. And we're gonna keep on going here, but I'm definitely gonna rage about that story when we come back.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.